Hey there, Spiero here. You're watching Buy and Hold Fundamentals, and it's time for another Saturday summary. Today we're looking at 100 properties in Indianapolis, or rather, we're looking at the results of having looked at those, and probably a couple of comments as a result of the averages which have eked out here. And I think there's some we'll see what that shows, but I think there's some things missing. So, having looked at 100 places and we're looking at the total averages, the average purchase price is around 62,000. That will get you a rent of, $850, which will result in cash flow of 117, and a cash on cash return of 11%. On average, your rent ratio is 1.85%. All of which is, on the surface of it, is very, very interesting. If what we're doing is looking for buy and hold properties under 100,000 that will cash flow at least $100 and will present a 10% cash on cash return. So, in that respect, we're hitting all of the indicators that would make me interested. If I filter out everything that isn't hitting those indicators, meaning we're not hitting a 10% cash on cash, and as a result of that, the rest isn't being met. So I'm only filtering on the cash on cash. So anything that's 10% and up, something even more interesting happens. The average price goes down by more than $20,000. The average rent stays more or less the same, goes up a little bit. Cash flow doubles, cash on cash return doubles, and you're getting nearly another percent of rent ratio. So, potentially very, very interesting. So, if you're looking at, and that's out of the 100, that's 45 properties. Out of the 100 that we looked at, we're hitting these are hitting these are creating this average rather. But there's a but. And I think that's something I'll have to look into. And when we come back to Indianapolis, I'll try and speak to that. I don't know what kind of neighborhoods they are where we saw these properties. That's one. From having seen the amount of properties there that are run down, that gives me some pause. I need to figure out if the place is slummy or is just a little bit run down. Is it blue collar or is it a war zone? I think very important to find that out before considering purchasing a property there. Secondly, a lot of what's driving that price down is the sale of properties that are in no state to be rented out. So you might be getting something that's being sold at, or being offered rather, at 25 grand. But without a doubt, you'll have to stick in 30, 40, maybe $50,000 to bring it back up to a point where you can actually rent it out and someone will pay you to live there. I mean, if it has no functioning kitchen, no functioning bathrooms, no windows, no AC, leaking roof, and all that kind of stuff, then you might have to sink so much money into a place like that that it's not worth the time. So that's another question that needs to be answered. I think that's sort of a pinch of salt we have to take when looking at these stats. I think they're a little bit over the top. I mean, especially if you look at some of the really really exaggerated cash and cash returns and rent ratios, where here, for instance, a 50% cash and cash return. If it actually rents out, that's great. 2 years and you have your entire investment back. However, If the place is a real dump, then more likely than not, in the 2 years, you're going to have 5 tenants, and you're not going to make any of those numbers. And you're going to have to deal with a lot of headaches. So that's part of the due diligence that needs to take place once we've had an initial look at a particular neighborhood. I still have to decide whether I want to look into these neighborhoods even further or start looking in different places in Indianapolis for properties that might need a little bit less work and tenants that'll probably need a little bit less supervising. But that's just on the surface of it. So that's Indianapolis. I haven't figured out yet if I'm going to go back to Greenville or if I am going to go somewhere else for next week. But you'll find out by the time I figure that out. So that's it. Thank you for watching. My name's Spiero, and this is Buy and Hold Fundamentals. If you like what's anyway, what I was going to say before my daughter snapped me out of my concentration was, if you like what you're seeing here, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. I'd really appreciate that. It'll help me to get this out to other people. Give us a thumbs up, and I'll be back tomorrow with a multi-family Sunday. See ya.